Good morning and welcome to the Planning Hearing Officer's hearing for October 1st, 2014. My name is Laura Stotler and I am serving as the hearing officer today. We have a variance case and relevant exhibits are posted on the panels located directly behind me. The agenda, staff reports, and recommendations for today's case can be found on the city's website. A copy of the hearing procedures are available on the counter by the front door next to the agendas, and there's also copies of the staff report there as well. Under the provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.43 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a variance shall be granted if the four required findings are present. If the evidence presented in the application and at the hearing meets the criteria, then the planning officer can either approve or impose conditions for approval on the case in question. If the findings of fact are not evident, then the request will be denied. Take a look at the copy of the staff report as well. You'll see the findings are listed, and those are available for your review as well as the public's. Notification of this hearing was accomplished by the use of public notices which were mailed to property owners and occupants located within 500 feet of the subject property, physically posted on the site in question, and placed in the local newspaper and also posted on the city's website. The hearings will proceed as follows. I'll read a description of the requested entitlements. The case planner will then make a brief overview of the case, give an analysis, and make a recommendation. The applicant will then be asked to come forward, stating both the name and address, and will be asked to present the case within a 15-minute time limit. Others in supportive or in opposition to the application and interested parties will then be asked to come forward to speak, stating both name and address, and will have a 3-minute time limit. Lastly, the applicant will be given an opportunity to make closing comments, if desired, in response to testimonies given by preceding speakers within a 15-minute time limit. The hearing will be closed and the case taken under submission. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing and will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who have responded to the public notice, who have either spoken here at this meeting or who have written to us giving their name and address. The date of that decision will be the date appearing on the letter. However, if a decision is made at this hearing, the decision date will be today's date, and the 15-day appeal period will start today. Under the appeal provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.62 of the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the date of the decision. Anyone wishing to appeal may obtain forms and brochures on the procedures from the Permit Services Center, which is located in room 101 of this building. If you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of the speaker's forms, which have been provided by the front door, and please submit it to our planning assistant. I have only one green form, and I see an additional person. If you'd like to speak, please submit. Thank you. I would also like to inform everyone that the official proceedings of the hearing are being recorded as part of the public record. So for the first case, and only case on the agenda, we have variance case PVAR 1413376 located at 326 Kempton Road. The applicant is Sipa Nazarian. The case planner is Milka Toledo. This is an application for a variance to allow a floor area expansion to an existing 2-story single-family home while not providing the required street front setback and exceeding the maximum allowable 0.40 floor area ratio, located at 326 Kempton Road in the R1R restricted residential zone. The project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act as a Case 1 existing facilities exemption pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act Guideline Section 15301. So with that, I'd like to ask the case planner to please provide an overview.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Stotler. As you stated, this is a variance request for 2 items. That would be for the floor area ratio, which is exceeding the maximum allowable in this zone and district of 0.40 for the first 10,000 square feet, and also for not providing the required front setback, which is 15 feet in this zone. Currently, the property is developed with a 6,872 square foot single-family house. It is 2 stories in height. The lot size is 6,872 square feet and is developed with a 2,586 square foot single-family house. The garage is attached. It's 420 square feet. Surrounding zone is R1R throughout the neighborhood, and there are single-family homes throughout. The project was constructed back in 1975 in its present condition, and there is an existing variance that was actually granted in 1974. And at that time, the variance was allowed for the construction of the dwelling to be set back 3 feet from the front property line and 1 foot from the front property line for the garage. At this time, the applicant is requesting the variance, as I alluded to earlier, to exceed the maximum allowed floor area ratio. They're proposing the enclosure of the existing breezeway at the front and the front entry porch area, which currently does not meet the current setback 15-foot requirement, but again was approved through the variance back in 1974. By enclosing these two areas, the floor area that currently exists would exceed by 93 square feet, which means their proposal of 2,761 square feet would be the total floor area with those two areas enclosed and included as part of the habitable floor area. So again, the house would exceed the maximum allowed floor area ratio by 93 square feet. In staff's opinion, there are options that could be explored in terms of adding more floor area to the house, again, with what they have there now, perhaps at the rear of the house, and proposing less square footage than what they're proposing today. So, in staff's opinion, staff was not able to make the 4 required findings, one of them being that the strict application of the provisions of the ordinance would not result in practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships, because maintenance of the existing house at 2,586 square feet does not constitute a hardship. It is the intent of the zoning code to eliminate nonconforming aspects of older buildings, and therefore the existing setback variance that was granted in 1974 at the time allowed the house to be set back 3 feet from the front property line and 1 foot for the garage from the setback from the front property line. So to allow the proposed enclosure of both the front porch and the breezeway would, at 6 feet from the front property line, would create an additional nonconforming situation, which is inconsistent with the intent of the ordinance and the general plan. And in addition, if allowed, the enclosure would increase the floor area ratio to exceed the maximum 0.40 and would put them at 0.41 for this district. So both variances are self-imposed hardships. In terms of exceptional circumstances, well, there are no exceptional circumstances or conditions applicable to the property, in that the variance request would exacerbate the existing conditions on the site in terms of its size and its open space at the front of the property. The subject site is similar in size, in shape, and the front setback is also similar to other properties in the neighborhood, as this is a hillside, so especially the homes on the south side have minimal front setbacks already. So compared to other properties in the neighborhood, there's nothing unique about this particular property. Granting of the variance would be detrimental or materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property improvements in such zone or neighborhood, in that the property in which the property is located would not be protected by the high standards of the code with regard to residential development. The proposed 0.41 floor area ratio would not be in character with the majority of the developments in the area. In addition, to grant that second setback variance and exceed the maximum allowed floor area ratio could potentially lead to further requests or variance requests similar in nature, so would set a precedent. And lastly, the granting of the variance would be contrary to the objectives of the ordinance, in that the house would be allowed to become more nonconforming in terms of its front setback, and the objectives of the front 15-foot setback requirement is to provide maintenance of reasonable open space between the house and the front of the street, which provides that adequate open space meeting the objectives of the ordinance and the general plan in the R1R zone. So therefore, proposing new floor area at the front while maintaining that existing nonconforming setback would intensify the existing nonconformity, and the new floor area would result, again, in a 0.41 floor area ratio, which would thus create more mass at the front of the house in relationship to its size, or the lot size. And the objectives of the floor area ratio standard is to limit the overall bulk of the house and keep in proportion to a given lot size, and to not allow a house to be out of character with other homes in the immediate area. And for those reasons, staff does not recommend approval of this variance request.
Okay. And I noted that we did receive an email that came in yesterday. It looks like we received one from Gary Nave, who's at 321 Brockmont Drive. He says he wants to go on record as approving the City of Glendale staff findings, thus opposing the granting of the variance for PVAR 1413376, and he will be unable to attend the public hearing. So I just want to disclose that we did receive this email. I don't know if the applicant has received a copy of it, so we'll be happy to give you a copy of this as well. It just came in yesterday evening. With that, I don't have any further questions for staff. I'd like to call forward the applicant, Sipan Nazarian. And you did hear the staff report, so we would need to approve this project, I would have to hear all the findings that would support a variance.
Okay. Hello, my name is Sipan Nazarian. Just want to, before we even applied for the variance, we've met with staff numerous times to move forward with the project, and we didn't move, for a few months before. We've talked to design review and also with Milka. To say that I'm kind of shocked is an understatement, because a lot of the findings, pushing forward with the project, we knew that it was going to be hard. Milka specifically said it's very hard to get a FAR approval, but this seems like a unique case that might be approved. So to hear the findings right now, I'm completely a little thrown off.
Okay, well, tell me why. Tell me why.
The reason being was we did find that our property is about 1,000 square feet smaller than any other property that we surveyed in the area, and we did a kind of study to show that. In terms of FAR, if we were to go with the next highest property size, which is the smallest one aside from ours, at 7650, to current code, you couldn't even have this property because it doesn't meet the minimum. I think it's 7,000 or 7,500 to be able to have, if you were to subdivide, for example, a lot. If we were to go with the next smallest lot of 7650, our FAR drops down to 36.1, so we don't really have the issue. So I see that as a hardship, as being well below the smallest property in the area and not even conforming to the current minimum. So that does pose a hardship for us. And in terms of the massing increasing, that was one thing that we, from the beginning, cleared out, that we're not increasing the mass. It was actually, staff had mentioned that the mass of the building is not increasing, the lot coverage is not increasing. We're not increasing the roof line, which previously was proposed, but we decided to push that back to completely not change the look of the building. In terms of changing the mass from the front, if you look at the elevation, it absolutely does not change, because the breezeway is not open all the way to allow you to see the hillside. There's a wall behind that breezeway. So when you're looking, you're seeing a wall. You're not seeing clear space. And from below, you're not seeing clear space because there's a staircase in front of you. So if that staircase in elevation was 10 feet above you, in front of you or behind you, it's still creating a blocking of the mass. So pushing the building forward, we even set the building back to not bring it to the furthest point. So encroaching the setback, it's encroaching, but in every other area of the front line is already encroaching. So us pushing forward is not going past anything that's already there. And we actually set it back 1 foot to give in elevation, it looks the same. So we wanted to create that line that's there right now. There's tile in the back. We're moving that forward, but because we're setting it back the elevation of the building does not change. Only the front door comes to that front area, but in terms of the elevation, it's remaining the same. And the reason, this was another thing that when we were talking with staff in design review, we'd mentioned that connecting the house at the front is more practical because it allows you to exit your garage and be inside your home instead of exit your garage, go outside, and then be inside the home. And by doing so, we're not enclosing, we're putting a glass there at the front right next to the garage. It's not a solid wall. Again, trying to keep the same look of the building, so when you're looking, you are seeing a little bit of depth. You're not seeing a solid wall, so we did put a full-height glass there. So as you're exiting the garage, but what that does is it's safer for the owner, and also it's more convenient to be able to be inside your home as soon as you exit your garage. And the same issue we had on the first floor is that you have well, I don't want to say first floor, but the lower level, because it goes from street level, you have to drop down. Enclosing that back area where the kitchen is, we're pushing that front wall forward, and it's all glass. So again, we're not creating this massing. It's actually more glass than there is now. You see that sliding door at that rear elevation. That's where that breezeway would be for the staircase. So now when you look at it, you see a staircase leading up, so you don't see clearly all the way through to the front street. Obviously, you wouldn't because it's higher. But now we have glass there, and there's a lot more penetrations at the back of the building. It's a lot lighter looking. So it's completely, I think, in terms of aesthetics, it works with what's going on. And in closing that, it allows that detached bedroom to be part of the house, which now, again, you have to step outside to come in. And, I mean, it wasn't like we applied for this variance blindly. We've gone to numerous meetings months before we even applied for the application, and we were honestly led to believe that there's a good chance that everything we're doing, although, and I even mentioned it, that it's not a hardship that's there, but the lot is smaller, and we're within a couple of feet. I'm not trying to add 500 square feet to this. I'm not increasing the bulk of the building. The roof line is absolutely not changing. The massing absolutely isn't changing. It looks the same. It's just a matter of literally 93 square feet. To go through this whole process, I mean, I've seen that the findings there weren't anything that could be found based on the latest version of the drawings that we submitted. From day one, we had this proposal, and if it was blatantly obvious that it's going to be denied, there was no point of spending 3 months and $5,000 to go through the process. It could have just been denied, and I feel like we're led to believe that there was a good chance that we have a good argument, but it seems like kind of thrown off. But I mean, hopefully the argument that we're proposing is there. We're not trying to, it's not mansionization. We're not trying to overly exceed. I mean, we're going 41.1% and 93 square feet. But if you can see through both the existing floor plan and the proposed, and in terms of the elevations, we did a lot to try to maintain the integrity of the building. The owner was very happy with the design. It was designed by an architect, and he's the only person who's lived in it. So even the materials that we're replacing, we're trying to replace it like for like. We're going through a lot of issues with fire to try to get the outside wood, because that's what's there right now, and we want to maintain that. Trying to maintain the integrity of the structure as much as we can, but at the same time, you got a person buying this house, and we want it to be comfortable for him as well. So it's been a lot of back and forth, and I feel like we've done a good job trying to preserve a lot of those things. And literally, if we were 300 square foot bigger on our lot, we wouldn't be here right now. So I don't agree with the recommendation to deny the project based on our findings, because I don't think it's going to be detrimental to the public health. I've talked to neighbors in the neighborhood next door. No one's here complaining right now. Neighbor complaining on Brockmont is 150 feet down the hill. I don't see why that's going to affect him in any way. All the neighbors next to us know that we're doing the project. I've talked to them, and nobody's denying it, and no one's here to complain.
Have you tried to design a version of the project that would meet the FAR?
The thing is, it's so small that one option is if we're allowed to encroach the front setback, which again I maintain it's. I think we're going to be at 4 or 6 feet, but everywhere else it's protruding past. So I don't think the front setback is an issue. But if you only add the front, you still have the same issue of having a detached bedroom below. And here's the thing: if we were allowed to only add to the front or the bottom, the breezeway gets reduced anyways. You can't use the breezeway. The only way the breezeway works is if you keep it the way it is. So if we add to the front, we don't exceed the floor area, and the setback I don't think should be an issue because we're already well behind what's already there. Then okay, that gets approved, but then it still requires you to demolish your breezeway. That staircase leading up would now lead up to nothing. So, or if you did it to the bottom, same issue. You add to the bottom, and then you can't use that breezeway to go from the street level down. So the breezeway, in any regard, if you do any sort of addition, the breezeway becomes a non-factor. So it seems more of a hardship to not be able to add to the bottom and the top to connect the entire structure together. And like I said, where we are connecting, we're not creating solid walls. It's all been glass at the breezeway and also at the bottom. We added more glass than it's already there. We have a sliding door next to a door. So we're trying to keep that look, but basically just trying to enclose it because then it becomes all one unit, one house. Instead of, I don't know, if you have kids, your kid has to go outside to get back into his bedroom, but right now it's all enclosed. It just makes more sense to do it that way.
Do you have anything else to add, or?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, I have a card from Cedric Akimian.
I am the owner of the house, and all I really want to do is connect my house. Like when I pull into my garage, I want to be inside my home. And then the downstairs, like to access the third bedroom, you have to come outside again. You know, so I just want to connect the house really. And the roof line's not changing. Everything's staying the same. Trying to keep the DNA of the old house the same, you know, like not really trying to add any major square footage. We just want to just connect the house really. That's all I'm trying to accomplish here. I'm not trying to add any square footage or, you know, add 300 or 500 square feet to it. You know, the house is already fine the way it is. If I could just connect it and make it a whole. That's really the issue here. How can we take this house and make it a whole? Let's start stepping outside to get into a bedroom, or get in the garage and step outside and walk into your house. How can we close all that? Secondly, on the side of the house, I have another staircase that runs down, like a fire escape. So eliminating the breezeway, you got access from the side of the house to get to the back. So really, just trying to connect the house.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then ask the applicant, do you have any other additional comments you'd like to make? No? Okay. With that, I'm going to close this public hearing. The case will be taken under submission, and I'll be preparing my decision. I'm now closing this hearing. There are no further items on this agenda, so this agenda is now adjourned. Thank you for coming.